Welcome back, everyone. At the bottom of the hour to the Fox 11 News at 6 o'clock. I'm Marla Tejas. For more on what happened in court today as it relates to the Menendez brothers, I'm joined by legal analyst Mary David. Thanks so much. I'm glad that you got the green memo as well.
Yes. Me too.
Right? Okay, let's start with all of the documents that Nathan Hochman, the incoming DA, and the judge, they have to go through. 17 boxes. What sort of documents are in these boxes? What do they get to look through?
Well, these boxes contain all of the evidence that was used and also all of the transcripts from these trials, which were very long and extensive. All of the sidebar conversations that happened. Nathan Hochman, he was a line prosecutor. This was a career that he was in for a long time, and so of course he's going to go through with a fine-tooth comb and really make sure that whatever decision is made takes into account all of the key factors. And that's really the approach that you need for a case that is so serious in the ramifications, because it speaks to some really important public safety issues and also issues pertaining to sexual violence.
So we learned today that the resentencing hearing will not happen December 11th. It has been moved to January 30th and 31st to give them that time that they need to review the documents. Does Nathan Hochman then, is he able to step in prior to the resentencing hearing? Because the judge on that day could say, hey, we're going to reduce your sentence to a murder with parole or perhaps manslaughter, at which case they would walk. How does that work?
Well, it's not surprising that this hearing has been delayed until after the holidays. The courts are incredibly overwhelmed during this time period, and so not that much typically happens between Thanksgiving and the end of the year. As far as the options to be weighed, Nathan Hochman has made it very clear that he really is going to do his due diligence with this. He's not just going to accept what his predecessor was going with. And I do think it is important that he also said, you know, I haven't even seen monsters, because that also speaks to the fact that he is really thinking about the legal ramifications of this, not all of the hoopla that has come out over the public speculation around this case. As far as what happens and what the judge decides to do, ultimately, it's very likely that he is going to weigh heavily what the district attorney's office has to say on this. It is powerful that you have so many of the defendant's family members, the victim's family members, united on their release. So those will both be weighed, and most likely what will happen is that this will be a general recommendation that goes to the parole board, and ultimately they will come up with a recommendation based on the sentencing guidelines.
Okay, and you call them victims, and a lot of people would say they don't think that they're victims. Also, in this case, the Menendez brothers themselves. Getting to that potential of what could happen in January, this could go to the parole board, and then it's up to the parole board to decide. So we're still quite a few months off until this decision could happen. Let me talk to you about the Governor Newsom. He punted. He said because he could grant them clemency. He said, no, let the DA, the incoming DA, look at this case. Let the judge handle this. It's become a political hot potato. Does that bode well for the Menendez brothers or not?
This really speaks to the power and the limitations of public opinion and things like the Netflix series Monster that came out, because that really did ramp up public interest. You had Kim Kardashian really weighing in on this, and notably she was a part of the advocacy efforts in Cyntoia Brown's release and her commuted sentence. The pardon that she received, she was a sex trafficking victim who was sentenced to, had a life sentence as well that was commuted, as well as Alexis Martin, who also, another sex trafficking victim who the governor of Ohio commuted her sentence as a result of Kim Kardashian West's advocacy. So I do think that that increased the attention that this received, and the district attorney really wanting to expedite this being looked at more seriously in light of the election that was coming up. But it also shows the limitations, because then the governor didn't really want to weigh in and allow for clemency in commuting the sentence the way that he could have had this not been so divisive politically right after the election results.
Yeah, it has very clear, you know, for and against. This has garnered a lot of attention. Mary David, we thank you so much for being here.